Milwaukee. Mike Lowe, Fox 6 News.
Mike, thanks.
The price of convenience. How much are you willing to pay to have a small Wisconsin airport with 2 flights a day when there is a major airport, as you know, 90 miles away?
Yeah, like it or not, you may already be paying for that airport, and more than 100 like it across the country. Fox 6 investigator Brian Paulson tonight shows you why efforts to scrap the so-called essential air service can't seem to get off the ground.
Yeah, Ted and Mary, in case you didn't know, there really are commercial airports in Eau Claire and Rhinelander, though it's unlikely you've ever boarded a plane there. On most days, no more than 70 or 80 people fly out of either one. But if you fly at all, you're paying to keep those airports alive. The question is, are you paying for essential air service, or are you getting taken for a ride? If you really want to fly from Milwaukee to Eau Claire, you can. Not that it makes a whole lot of sense. A few weeks ago, photographer Jim Wilson and I left the Fox 6 studio in Brown Deer at precisely the same time. It's 8:30. See you in Eau Claire. Only he took the freeway. I headed to Mitchell Airport. There I boarded a 50-passenger jet bound for Chicago, followed by a 2-hour layover at O'Hare, and finally, another regional jet to the Chippewa Valley Airport. In all, the trip across Wisconsin took me 6.5 hours. Jim got there in a little over 4. He was waiting when I arrived.
Glad you could make it out.
So was Democrat Congressman Ron Kine, whose district includes the city of Eau Claire.
Obviously, rural area, not as much usage. It's not as profitable for the big airlines.
The Chippewa Valley Airport has just one gate with 2 commercial departures and 2 arrivals each day. In between the newly remodeled terminal is a virtual ghost town. The airport here recently underwent a $4 million renovation, including new security, new seating, and their first ever baggage carousel. But all that was planned just before Delta Airlines told them, "We want out." In 2009, Delta filed a notice with the FAA that it planned to discontinue service in Eau Claire.
They had cut flights, schedules, fares to such a manner that it wasn't, nobody was flying out of here.
Airport manager Charity Spike says that qualified the city for a federal program aimed at preserving small-town air service. And SkyWest Airlines, doing business as United Express, seized the opportunity, snaring a $1.7 million subsidy.
Well, without the program, today we wouldn't have air service.
Kine says that would have been bad for business in the Chippewa Valley.
And if you start taking away those transportation options from them, boy, those companies in a heartbeat have the ability to move and move somewhere else.
But Republican Congressman Tom Petri wants to end the program that saved the Eau Claire Airport.
It's nice for the community. They can say they have scheduled air service, but it's pretty bad for the taxpayer.
Congress created the so-called Essential Air Service program in 1978 when deregulation of the airlines threatened to leave small cities without air service. EAS was supposed to be a temporary initiative to help small airports survive the transition to a market-based system. 34 years later, it's still here. Congress has extended the program 22 times.
Good intentions, allowing for a transition, have turned into, I think, a kind of a boondoggle.
The original program served more than 400 cities across the lower 48 states. By 1997, it appeared the EAS was making its final descent, down to just 95 cities and a tab of $26 million. But since then, the program has gone skyward again. Today, 122 cities are enrolled with a combined subsidy of more than $200 million. An 8-fold increase in just 15 years.
That would pay for a lot of rental cars.
In some of the most remote communities, like tiny Ely, Nevada, those subsidies have paid for near-empty flights, making EAS a prime target for those looking to eliminate waste in Washington. But in Eau Claire, we found the taxpayer-funded flights mostly full.
I fly usually 2 or 3 times a month. My wife flies 2 or 3 times a month.
Many of the regular users are business travelers like Brady Faust.
You know, lots and lots of business people who fly out of Eau Claire every week.
But according to a business plan SkyWest filed with the U.S. Department of Transportation, there still aren't enough passengers for the airline to turn a profit. And that's at least partly because travelers in Eau Claire and the rest of the Chippewa Valley already have another option for air service just 90 minutes away.
Generally fly to Minneapolis.
Minneapolis.
Usually Minneapolis. Last time I flew out of Eau Claire would have been probably, let me think, April.
And when's the last time you flew out of Minneapolis?
2 weeks ago.
Generally, you can get cheaper tickets flying out of a larger hub like Minneapolis than out of a place like this.
Which begs the question,
how essential is essential air service?
Essential air service is not essential.
under current law, airports are only eligible for the federal subsidy if they're located at least 70 miles from a medium or large hub airport. Last year, Congressman Petri proposed extending that limit to 90 miles.
Certainly if you're within an hour, hour and a half drive of another airport with regular service, it's almost impossible to justify the subsidy.
The U.S. Government Accountability Office actually recommended extending the limit to 125 miles. So why did Petri stop at 90? Could it be because Eau Claire is officially located 92 miles from the Minneapolis airport? And that airport serves a portion of the congressional district represented by Petri's fellow Wisconsin Republican Sean Duffy? Petri says absolutely not.
That wasn't a factor in my thing. We didn't know that at that time, yeah.
Either way, the proposal failed.
If we can't even do this, where do we start?
This year, Petri and many of his colleagues tried to kill the program entirely. They got 164 votes, including 10 Democrats, but 77 Republicans helped save the program, including Congressman Duffy, whose staff did not return our calls.
When you get down to the specifics, it gets darn hard politically.
Even Kind, a Democrat who supports the program, admits EAS is loaded with pork.
It's usually parochial politics, unfortunately. I'd like to see a program set up based on criteria that applies across the board, so it doesn't depend on the political clout of a certain representative or senator in order to keep a regional airport alive.
There's no doubt that losing an airport could have a negative effect on a local community.
It would be terribly inconvenient.
But is it essential?
I guess if they didn't exist, would I know the difference? Probably not.
Seems that is the $200 million question.
Airport manager Charity Spike emphasized to me that the program is not paid for with general tax fund revenue, but rather through fees paid for by other travelers. So if you don't fly, theoretically, you don't pay for it. If you do fly, though, out of, say, Milwaukee or Chicago, you pay extra fees that go toward the program.
All right, big numbers here, $200 million every year. What's the price difference if they were to expand the requirements to 90 from 70, as Congressman Petri wants to do?
Well, that would eliminate a few cities, not a lot, but he says it would save about $8 or $9 million. The GAO says that expanding that distance to 125 miles would save $24 million a year. But the American Bus Association actually released a report last year that claimed it could save $89 million for taxpayers by replacing the air subsidies with bus rides to the nearest major airport in 38 of the existing EAS cities, including Eau Claire. So far, nobody in Washington's taken them up on that offer.
Planes, trains, and automobiles just to get somewhere. You and Jim drive back, or did you fly back?
I flew back, he drove.
All right, you should have switched it out maybe.
Yeah.
All right, great job, Brian.
You got it, thanks.
Wasn't aware of it.
Her husband has been deployed again, but he's not in the military. He's actually a utility lineman. And he says the aftermath of Sandy is like a war zone, how a Cedarburg man is making a big difference. Plus, it started as a fight with his girlfriend, and then it grew. He attacked her family. Help find tonight's Wisconsin.